Thank you. Welcome to the meeting of the Tahoe Truckee Unified School District Board of Trustees. Today is August 3rd, 2022. If you'll please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. I will note that we're getting pretty darn close to the new school year, and that's so exciting. Get the kids back. So the board did meet in closed session this evening, and the board did take action this evening. The board approved options for the employment location of a certificated employee. So that's our report out from closed session. Superintendent Geisels, does staff have any changes to this evening's agenda?
No, we do not, President Zurich.
Would someone like to move the agenda?
I'll make a motion that we approve the presented agenda.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Public comment. This is the opportunity for anyone from the public to make a comment to the board on anything not on this evening's agenda. I will note that we have no public here in the boardroom, and so I will not be calling for public comment on each item unless the public comes. So if we could just note that I'm not forgetting, but I don't want to spend the time asking each time when we have no public. So next we get to hear from our Superintendent Chief Learning Officer Geisels.
Thank you, President Zurich. I'd like to welcome back everyone to our first board meeting of the school year. I hope you all had some time to rest and relax and rejuvenate. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce our new Coordinator of Communications and Parent Engagement. That's Miss Amber Burke. Amber comes to us from the North Lake Tahoe Resort Association. She's a current Glenshire parent. So Amber, welcome, and if you'd like to say a few words.
Thank you for having me. I am very excited.
Little green button, yeah.
Okay, thank you for having me. I am very excited to get started in this position and to do all I can to help the district moving forward and having a positive impact. I'm a 20-year resident of the area, so I have a real love of the North Lake Tahoe Truckee area, and so I'm just very excited to be involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Amber. I'd also like to share that TTUSD will continue to offer free meals for all students through the June 30th, 2023, regardless if a meal application has been submitted. But we do ask that you fill out an application every year in order to be considered for a lot of the benefits that are aligned with the application. For example, a CalFresh food card, sometimes AP or college application fees are waived, and also, you can fill out the application in the Aries portal. So, and also one other option could be discounted or free internet. So we're hoping that families will fill out the application. And on a very exciting note, TTUSD has been selected to receive grant funding to replace 4 of our current buses with electric buses. And the grant's approximately $1.6 million. Todd and Annette are very excited about this. Now, the grant doesn't include the infrastructure, and I learned that the infrastructure are the charging stations. But we're looking into alternative grant funding to fund those. So we're very excited about that. And then we are hiring bus drivers, instructional assistants, we're hiring custodial positions, we're hiring special education teachers. So parents, if you're out there, the calendar work year really would jive with your children's schedule, and we offer great benefits. It's a great community. So we ask that you, if you're interested, to please apply. And the last thing I have to share, and it's very sad news, is a member of our TTUS family, Mr. Jim Worthy, unexpectedly passed away a few weeks ago. And Mr. Worthy was one of our teachers at Truckee High School, and he had been there for the last 5 years. So we'd like to extend our thoughts and prayers to his wife, Jennifer, and their family. So if you would all kindly join me for just a quick moment of silence for Mr. Worthy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Superintendent Geisels. Our next item is a resolution and that is a resolution of the governing board establishing August as Immunization Awareness Month.
Yes, and I'm going to have Mr. Santos speak to this.
Yes, so every year, August is recognized as National Immunization Month because this is when all of our students and pupils come back to school. So we're making sure that we're all aware of the impact of and importance of vaccinations, immunizations to prevent diseases and illnesses and so forth. And as always, for the public out there, they are due by the time school starts, and there also is the medical exemption component that you can always have a conversation with your nurse and our student services, but this is to recognize the importance of immunizations for our students and our staff to keep our schools healthy and safe.
Thank you. Any board questions on this? I do have a comment. This does not include a COVID immunization, since that has been so controversial. That is not part of this. This is the traditional immunizations that kids are required to have to come to school.
Yes, that's correct.
If I could make a comment?
Of course.
I think this is particularly important this year as I'm reading the news. Vaccination rates on the normal vaccinations have dropped across the country, and some of it could become very serious. So this is a good time to refresh your vaccinations, your thinking.
I can add one thing to that too. I do want to note that our district is at a high percentage where we're meeting the state's threshold for students who have gone through the correct procedures for the immunizations. So we continue to monitor that through our shots for schools and our state public health. And that's something that our nurses continually monitor, and they actually start the springtime from the previous school year for the fall, for the upcoming school year to make sure that all the updates are, and parents are preparing for that as well. So.
Thank you. Any other board comments, or would someone like to make a motion on this resolution?
I will also say thank you to making it aware this month, and I'll make a motion to approve the resolution. Number 1.
I'll second.
Roll call, please. All in favor, excuse me.
Aye.
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 Thank you. Next, we have a donation, and this is a donation from Cheryl Painter in memory of retired TTUSD employee Verna Painter for the Truckee Elementary School Garden Project.
Yes, Ms. Cheryl Painter is graciously providing funds in the memory of her mother, who is a retired TTUSD employee, and the award is for the Truckee Elementary School Garden Project, and it's the amount of $1,440. So we're very happy to accept this in memory of Verna Painter.
Yes, very generous. Thank you. Any questions from the board? Board comments? Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the donation from Cheryl Painter.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Great, thank you so much. Next, we have a consent agenda. Superintendent Geisels, does staff wish to pull any items from the consent agenda?
No, we do not.
Would any board member like to pull any items from the consent agenda? Would someone like to move approval?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. So next we have reports from CSCA and TTEA. I know no one is here in the room. Do we have them remotely for this meeting? Any representatives from CSCA or TTEA?
I don't
Okay.
believe they're here.
They're enjoying the balance of their summer.
They should be, yes.
Next, we are going to approve the LCAP for the second time. And
Ms. Kramer?
yeah.
Yes. Well, I'm pleased to bring back a revised and updated and improved version of the LCAP. You took a look at this on June 21st and approved it, and you also gave us permission to make small technical changes. But through the process and the way that we showed contributing funds in our plan and non-contributing, wasn't clear enough to all of our educational partners in the eyes of the county. So I just want to thank Todd and Angie and Placer County, Catherine and Laura, because they've really been so great to work with to make sure that we have a plan that is clear to lots of people about how we use our funds in TTUSD to support our students. So I really appreciate that. So all I want to do is just highlight some of the changes. There's nothing substantial. You know, Todd and his team are so thorough with the budget. It's just more of the way we're explaining to the community about how we're using the funds to make sure that it's really clear.
As you get started, I just want to tell you, I appreciate like the blue writing that says, what this really means is.
Right.
And that's super helpful.
Yeah, good, good. So again, we make all of these changes in collaboration with Placer County Office of Education, and we're very close to getting final approval by them, so that's exciting. And we really, as a school district, are focused on closing the achievement gap. And in reviewing our goals, something that was missing was we were too general in saying that all groups were going to change in our metrics. And if we want to close the gap, then we really need to be focused on our subgroups. And they're just going to need to make more growths and more gains than some of the subgroups. So we just cleaned up the language and the metrics to match our vision better and just align the document. So that was one change you would see in goal 2, or some of the metrics were touched up a little bit. And then the other major change, and the reason why we need to bring it back to you for approval, is just the way we changed how we're representing the funding. So we really try to delineate those non-contributing funds to each action versus grouping them together. And so an example is in goal 1, originally in the June 21st version, we had an action that just explained, here's our total for non-contributing funds for this large goal. And in talking and communication with the county, we felt it would be better to really explain which action each of these funds applied to. So in the new version, there's just one example there. We added 4 more line items to just delineate out it's the same total, but this is how much for each of those actions. And you'll see that in goal 3 as well. And because of those changes, the county recommended that we bring it back to you and the public just to make sure everyone has a chance to ask any questions and make sure they understand that the total funds are staying the same. It's just our explanation of the use of them. And so as a result, all of those tables towards the end of the plan, those were updated as well as we kind of fine-tuned the contributing and non-contributing.
Thank you, Kirsten. Board questions? I have one, and I apologize. I didn't do very good in typing up homework, so I'm asking it here. So we know later on tonight we have an agenda where we're modifying, doing a 45-day modification to our budget. And we'll have our interims as usual, which we pass, and that's changes to the budget also. How does that affect the LCAP, or does it?
That's such a good question. So the LCAP is a living document, but we will update it in the spring and bring it back to you. As Todd and his team update the budget, we do not have to go in and update this live. What we'll do at the end of the year is account for differences between our planned spending and then our actual spending. So we'll kind of give a summary. If there's any differences in how we spent the money, we will account for that at the end of the year.
Okay, I like that answer. I don't want to have you chasing numbers constantly. Okay. And, yeah. Anything else? No, thank you. Yeah, thank you for all of the work on this. Seems like it'll be smoother next year because we've now got the template and we understand.
And that's exactly what the county said as well. The next year will be much smoother because we've got the template in place, and then it will just be our reflections on how we're doing and updating the budget, and it'll be much smoother.
Okay. So would someone like to move approval of the LCAP?
I will make a motion to approve the LCAP for 22-23.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Great. Thank you. Thank you, all staff who worked on this. Next, which is our annual declaration of the need for fully qualified educators for the 22-23 school year.
Yes, I'm going to have Ms. Apatini discuss this item.
So this item we do annually. It is a list of what we might think we need for special permits in order to be able to credential people in order to be able to be in the classroom.
Did anyone have questions on this? I had a brief question, I'm sorry. I failed on homework again. You cut there's 27 in total, and you just cut that in several different ways in the
Correct.
information that you gave us, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, that's how I interpreted it. I just want to make sure that I was correct.
No,
And it
that's
wasn't
correct.
27 plus 27 plus 27.
No, no, no. Yeah.
Okay, terrific. Would someone like to make a motion for approval?
Thank you, Joan, for this. I make a motion to approve the declaration.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. This next one's pretty exciting. This is award and approve an agreement with Core Construction for services at North Tahoe Campus Modernization Project. So is this our last project of our E and U?
Yes, yes.
That's
So
cool.
this is the last project that was identified as a project priority in our Measure E program. So it's exciting to basically get to that last rung on the ladder and finish up all our projects that we promised voters. So this is for North Tahoe improvements, and I think we've updated the board in the past that the original planned priorities and projects changed over time since we first passed the Measure E bond. So we met with administrators to determine what the current priorities were at that school site. And then we started the planning process. So we've already selected an architect, Studio W, that's already starting to do preliminary schematic design work. And we decided the best option for us was to go through the leaseback delivery method, which is the same delivery method we used for the second phase of Truckee High School. We went out for a request for qualifications process, received it was either 4 or 5 responses for different leaseback contractors. We went through a selection process and a panel interview process and selected Core Construction, who was also the contractor at Truckee High School on the Phase 2. So we're very excited to have them back. Essentially, with the leaseback delivery method, you bring the contractor on early to work on with the actual designer, the architect, to determine issues with constructability, also just to get a contractor's feedback on best methods for moving forward with different types of scope of work. And then as they work through the design process, they narrow down that scope to a real refined level where they can provide us with very accurate pricing to actually perform the project. So that is a plan right now. We're contracting with Core Construction as a leaseback contractor. This is the full leaseback contract document. However, we have not fully defined the scope of work. So the only cost you see in there right now is for their pre-construction services, which is $20,000. So I want to assure everybody that the North Tahoe Improvement Project will not be a $20,000 project. It'll be closer to probably $4 million. However, that's the only number we have solid right now as we develop the plans and the actual scope of work. Then Core will come back with a guaranteed maximum price, which will include their general conditions along with allowances for the project in case contingencies come up. So we're very excited for this. So we're asking you to approve the leaseback contract with Core Construction.
Thank you, Todd. Can you I know it's, as you said twice, we don't know the exact scope, but can you give the North Tahoe High School community a general idea of what they'll see out of this project?
Sure. And right now, we have identified several areas with a need at that campus. One of which, probably the largest, is renovation of the stadium. That stadium's definitely in need of updates and upgrades. Other areas that we're looking at is enhancement of the cafeteria space, looking at additional outdoor courtyard and learning spaces. Also, one of the major ones for that campus is a large-scale maintenance project because the stucco's failing on that building in all directions. So that's another big component and one of the largest priorities.
Great. Thank you very much. Do other board members have questions?
Nope.
Okay, well, I'll make a comment. I was super pleased with core construction and how they came in and completed Truckee High School, so I'm also excited that they're going to be working with you guys, with us again.
That was just going to make a comment, I'm psyched that it's them, and they've done a really good job with us. I think the working relationship is very different than some of the other ones, so I'm really excited about that as well. And then Todd, that is, as Kim said, that's the final M, measure U, measure E.
E and you.
And U, so both of them will be done with everything.
Yep.
Which is huge. And just quickly, where was that in our timeline? Are we, like in terms of, obviously Tahoe Lake took a lot longer, but when we started off, what did we say that we would do? 5 year, I don't remember.
Well, the original program was actually an 8-year program, and
Yeah.
we did it in about 5.
That's what I was saying, even with our, I wouldn't say mess,
Right.
but I think that those are things that you sort of slide under the table, Todd, that you guys did a really good
credit
job
for.
at doing whatever to get it all done, and despite all of the lack of supplies and everything, so big hats off to everybody. And and again, we had people leave in midstream, and there's some huge kudos going out to those of you that still have the reins of this, I don't know what we call it, a reindeer sleigh. But anyway, thanks. I definitely think that that's something that's very commendable and very, very, again, I kept saying before to Amber, fiduciarily sound. I think this is something that's huge for our entire community. So thank you. And with that, if anyone else has anything else, I will make a motion to approve the contract or the agreement 2020 or 22 with CORE.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Great. Thank you so much. Next, as the aforementioned, or as I alluded to, we're being asked to approve the 45-day budget revision.
Okay, thank you. So tonight, as you mentioned, we are bringing the 45-day budget revision to you for approval. And what Ed Code says is not later than 45 days after the governor signs the Annual Budget Act, that school districts shall make available for the public review any revisions in revenues and expenditures that has been made as a result of the adoption of the state budget. So the state budget was adopted on June 27th. We adopted our budget on June 23rd, I believe. So there was some changes that happened and some unknowns that happened when the state finally passed the bill through legislature. So what we're going to go over tonight, and one thing I should note is that this is an optional thing for districts. It's not required, and we have not done them in the recent past because we didn't see anything real significant that we couldn't just address at first interim. However, there's some pretty large, substantial changes here to revenues for the most part that we did want to highlight and share with the public. So this also is not the end all. We will see additional budget changes come at first interim as we refine everything with some of these changes that I'm sharing with you tonight, and also as changes occur over the course of the next several months. So one of the largest changes we're seeing here, and this is really not related to the state budget adoption, it's related to our local property taxes and our local assessed values. We had a very nice surprise come here with the tax rolls for the 2022-23 fiscal year. And just to remind everyone, at the time of our budget adoption, we do not have the current assessor tax rolls for 2022-23 because the assessor's office is still working on those. So the best we can get is maybe some estimates at the time in May and June. That gives us an idea of what we could be seeing with our assessed value increases. And at the time of our budget, we had anticipated about a 5.66% increase. What they're actually coming in at now that they've released those tax rolls is over 9.5%. So very good thing for the district. That results in probably an additional $2.5 million in revenues that will be going on an ongoing basis for the school district. With the state budget adoption and changes there, the state did increase substantially the local control funding formula for LCFF districts. Originally, they were estimating a 6.5% increase in LCFF base grants. They actually increased that to over 12.5%. So where that impacts us is it impacts us with Sierra Expeditionary Learning School, because we do pay their base grant amounts through LCFF through our in lieu property tax transfer. So we're going to see a little bit of an increased cost that goes against our property tax revenues of $112,000 going to cells. Other changes in the revenue side, state revenues, one of the big one is one-time funding that we thought was probably coming our way. We just didn't know what was going to get what the final approval would look like, whether there would be restrictions associated with it, and how much money we'd be getting. So we did not include initially in our budget. The state did split some of that one-time funding up into a couple different categories. The first being an arts, music, and instructional materials block grant. For us, it's estimated we'll receive about $2.3 million in one time, which we have to spend through the 25-26 school year. So we have a couple more years to spend that down. It is restricted, but it looks like there is some flexibility with that. And again, reminding this is one-time funding, so we have to really review and look at what our needs are within the district. One-time needs, things that we need, such as instructional material adoptions, any type of maintenance needs on buildings, operations. So we'll be really focusing on that with this grant. Another thing we need is, of course, we need another plan that needs to be approved by the board. So I look forward to presenting that to you in the near future. The other large one-time source is going to be your Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant. And again, this is restricted. For us, it's about $3.2 million in one-time funding. And the allowable uses are really centered around providing additional instruction and additional instructional support for our students. Allowable uses includes the language increase or stabilize instructional time, decrease stabilized staffing ratios, additional pupil supports to address learning gaps and barriers, and then additional academic supports. So really student-centered, and we'll be looking at ways that we can use this. The increased stabilized language kind of looks like it might give us some flexibility, but we're not exactly sure what that looks like at this point. We have through 2027, 2028 to spend this money. The other change that we saw with the budget adoption is the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program grant, which originally was approved and initiated in the 2021-2022 school year. We did receive money for this last year. It was about $541,000. We're going to receive a lot more this year, just a little, almost $1.35 million. And what this program is this is the expanded learning, the before and after school programs that school districts are going to be required to provide for their TK through 6th grade students. Originally, we had thought there might be an option for this. It could be optional for districts. It's no longer optional, it's required, but they keep pushing out the timeline and when we actually have to implement this, which now is we have to start this program in 2023-24. We do need to submit a plan for this as well. And what this requires us to do is provide an instructional day of 9 hours, which includes their regular instructional day and then a before and after school component. So we'll be looking for partnerships and other things that we can possibly do to make this happen. It is focused on TK through 6th. And it's focused also on duplicated students. So essentially, one of the changes that occurred with this year's budget adoption was they basically expanded the scope on who we need to serve with this program. Originally, we had to basically make available enough spaces of expanded learning opportunities program for 50% of our unduplicated transitional kindergarten through 6th graders. They've now expanded that so that we have to provide availability for all of our unduplicated TK through 6th graders. So it's definitely a larger number of students we have to serve. In addition, we have to provide transportation for these students if there is not an expanded learning opportunities program at their elementary school site. So if we were to provide an ELOP program at Kings Beach but not Tahoe Lake, we would have to provide transportation for Tahoe Lake kids to come over.
Todd, may I ask a question? First, let me note that you just created yet another acronym, ELOP. And secondly, is this an ongoing requirement, and is the program funding ongoing, or is this something where we have a, like Universal TK, where we're required to do it, but we have no additional funding?
This is an ongoing program, an ongoing funding source. However, I guess there is some potential volatility to the funding
Right.
for this.
It's ongoing
if we
funding
see some
until the state takes it away.
Right. So we're expected to provide this program, and it is a lot of work to put in to try to create the program. So, if they ever pulled this out, it would be detrimental, I think, to not only the school sites, but the community as well. So the other big ticket item here with the state revenues in the budget is that they are now offering reimbursements for transportation. So that is something we have not seen in many, many years. And essentially what the trailer bill does is reimburse 60% of home-to-school transportation costs for school districts, less our transportation add-on, which essentially was the amount that we used to get back before the local control funding formula came into effect. That was about $1.2 million. So our 60% represents probably a little under 2.5 million, and subtract out the 1.2 million that the phantom money we really don't get, we'd be left with about $1.2 million in additional ongoing revenue to support our home to school transportation program. So that was really great news. It does require an annual plan due in April of 2023. That'll be something we'll be bringing to the board every April. We also have to recognize some of the changes that have occurred on our expenditure side as well. And like I said, this is just what we know about now. We tried to capture and snapshot everything that we've seen come through to this point since June 23rd until probably last week. So we did see some increases in certificated salaries, about $294,000 on both the unrestricted and restricted side. It represents about 2.85 FTE, which is combined with overages at the high school level. So teachers that have to teach another section because there's too many students. Some new positions, and also just some temp increases that will go away in the out years. With the overages piece, we do see overages every year. It's pretty consistent, so I expect that to be an ongoing thing. And if it's not ongoing as overages, it means we have to add FTE in order to support those programs. The classified salaries, similarly, an increase of about $386,000. We did see some additional special education IAs on top of the vacancies that we already have right now. We added based on IEP needs. We have some new positions that we've added, and also some short-term positions as well that are funded with some of the one-time funding sources like ESSER and in ELO funds.
So can I ask a question? So, and I believe you just answered it, but when I saw this, So we need, based on an increased number of IEPs that we're getting for students, we need an additional 9.5 FTEs for instructional assistants.
That 9.2 is combined all of those positions. So the FTEs that for specifically for special education IAs that we've added is about 6.1.
That's significant.
I can speak to that. One of the reasons for that, we needed to add an additional 2 classrooms to support students. Looking at an SDC classroom, and typically those classrooms come with 2 what we call program IAs, and that's just based on our enrollment. And then we actually had to add, looking at our preschool numbers as well for SDC. And then we had a couple of students move in with what we would call one-on-one needs. And then at the end of last year, we had, I believe, 2 students that had one-on-one needs added on their IEP. And just so the board knows, we have a process to essentially look at a one-on-one need for a student. There's an assessment process. It's just not like, hey, the student needed extra help. So, but yeah, this is due to increased programming.
Hence our advertisement for hiring. Please. Thanks, you guys.
Yeah, in the IAs, too, it's important to know they're not 1.0 FTEs, so that represents a lot more in people, a lot more in health and welfare benefits as well. I think there's 12 people representing, 6 IAs or 7 IAs. So those were the ads for classified salaries, and then, of course, we have the benefits that are associated with that, the payroll liabilities, the health and welfare, and that increase is about $405,000. Like I said, we'll refine this a little bit better as we move towards first interim and have more exact values, but that's what we're seeing now. The next piece is just services. We are increasing that by about $125,000. Again, this is one of those things that could change. We probably will need to make some adjustments to our utilities. Those were coming in a lot higher at the end of the 21-22 fiscal year. We've seen rate increases, inflation, just like everything else. So once we get the final cost for 21-22, we'll probably make adjustments to the 22-23 just to make sure we're covered. We're also seeing increases in insurance cost and other consultants and legal fees based on current things that are going on. Insurance cost is one of those things where we've been seeing that regularly over the last several years, pretty significant increases in property and liability. And then in addition, we've seen some pretty significant one-time payments for our excess liability carrier, and that is related to the AB 218, I believe that was the number, where they expanded the length of time that that people were able to come back and file lawsuits for sexual abuse in K-12 education. So that put a big burden on the insurance industry, and there's a lot of exposure and liability out there. We had to pay a one-time payment that was supposed to cover it a couple years ago. That was, for us, was about $75,000. We have to do another one, which is actually twice that much. So that'll be a one-time, but just in general, insurance costs are kind of getting out of control.
Is workers' compensation having the same experience?
Our workers' compensation factors have gone down. We've actually seen a decrease, and that's all based on our experience level and improving things with injuries within our school district. So we're pretty happy about that.
Yes, kudos to staff for that.
And also our SIG, our schools insurance group, the self-insurance actually provides oftentimes a large credit towards the districts because of experience of all of us. So they're able to take down the rate a little bit.
Thank you.
And you probably can't see this really clearly here, but this is just a comparative of our original adopted budget and the 45-day revision. You'll see the revenue with all the one-time sources that I was talking about, plus the ongoing pieces. We see an increase of about $9.9 million. And then we have that increase for expenditures of about 1.2. Looking down the bottom line you can't really see it at the bottom of the page, but our reserve for uneconomic certainties Of course, with no changes at all moving forward, increased by about $2.5 million. And that brings us to our fund balances here. Original adopted budget, our reserve was 13.39. Now we're at $15.94 million. So that represents an 18.9% REU percentage. And then you'll see some pretty large increases on the restricted side for those one-time monies that I spoke about earlier.
But Todd, I'm compelled to say, and you probably will, especially as you get to the next slide, we know we're starting negotiations with our employee groups, and we don't have the salary increases that will happen incorporated in here. So we don't expect those the REU to end up here, but we don't know what the change is, and so you haven't put a change in.
That's correct. Obviously, we know things are going to change. They're not going to look like this in several months. So those changes will be put on, and they'll absorb a lot of, if not all, of that increase of the REU. So what we're looking at on a multi-year basis. One thing I should also note, too, that all the additional monies that we're getting for one time right now, I have the revenues included in this budget, but I don't have expenditures yet because we have not had those conversations and we have not decided how we need to spend that money. So that's why we're seeing a large fund balance drop on the restricted side, dropping down from 5 million to 11 million. So on the multi-year, obviously, all things staying the same, which will not occur, we see that reserve continue to grow because the expenditures are remaining static. Any questions on the 45-day revision?
Questions? Galen?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. This is the first time I've seen the 45-day update, and I have to say, I think it was well worth it. So many significant changes that have happened in the last 40 days, and to be so open with it, to everybody instead of rumors getting ahead of us. Thank you, I appreciate that.
Questions? I'm going to make a board member comment that I really want our executive staff, as I know you all want to be focused on the kids' education as much as possible, and all these plans seem to me like they're going to take your time away from the kids. So I guess, if there were a way that we could find outside resources that can help to write those plans, or, where school services, everybody has to do the same thing, is there a way to take that burden off of our staff so that they can continue to focus on the kids? Not that these won't be good for kids, but I would rather see all y'all actively with our kids, working on kid-related educational and social emotional support this year rather than doing plans. Did that make sense at all?
It did, and I can speak for cabinet and staff saying that PCOE has offered extensive support and services in this, and we're going to tap into that, because if we're feeling this 3 plans that we have to write, there are other districts in our county that are as well. So we'll make it a team effort. We will sit down together and see what we can get with the county as far as support and services and actually the writing of the plan. We're waiting for templates. We're waiting for all of the information and resources. So we'll work on that together. So.
So we need to approve this 45-day budget update. So if there's no further questions, would someone like to move approval?
I will make a motion to approve the 45-day budget revision, and again, having it right in our face and all those changes so quickly, thank you very much. It's really helpful.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Next, we have board business, and then the first item is approving dates for the January 2023 to December 2023 board meeting calendar.
Yes, so as you know, per board policy, our board meetings are scheduled for the first and third Wednesday of each month. So what we are presenting to you are the board dates for beginning in January of 2023 to December of 2023. And we're asking, staff is asking for board approval.
Questions? I did make a comment earlier to Superintendent Geisels. If you look at it, the last meeting in July, because of our spring break, we moved those two meetings back to the second and fourth Wednesdays. And so there's only 1 week between the last meeting in April and the first meeting in May. So staff may want to think about that when it gets down, next
Down the
spring, whether that makes sense or not. You could always cancel it.
That's true.
Or if you have a lot that needs to get done, no, not. But I know when I was a staff member, trying to have a board meeting and then get all the stuff done, to do a meeting a week later is a lot of work and probably, can be impractical. But this way we keep flexibility by keeping it there.
Right.
Are you misunderstanding? Are you asking to move it up into March?
No. I'm just commenting that if you look at the last April
Right.
meeting, the first May meeting, they're only a week apart.
Right,
So
so
I'm just suggesting we just leave it, but that staff may say, hey, we don't want to do that first meeting in May. We don't have enough board business. We'll just have a single meeting in May. But if we leave it on the calendar, we have the flexibility.
Okay, as opposed to moving it to March, can I say that, to move it to March?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So they can, I'm just understanding that the staff can just say, we don't have enough in, we'll go from
We
there.
don't need to meet.
Okay.
Yep. So would anyone like to move the approval of the calendar?
Sure, I'll make a motion to approve the presented calendar.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Great. So board comments. Dee Dee, you want to start us?
Marvelous. I am very busy writing my candidate statement so that I may run again for the Area 5 in Tahoe Truckee Unified School District. A little scary, first time ever. But I'm meeting tomorrow with the elections to submit my statement, and then I will have my name on the ballot for the first time in November. And with that, it's been very exciting. I've asked for a lot of help, and I've gotten a lot of great feedback. Let me just share with you what I've done. But I know I'm really looking forward to being back on the board. I'm hoping that it all goes well and that I'm elected quickly. Jeff, as you leave, just keep your residency here for a few more months so that you can vote. I did listen to the state budget on a Zoom call, and boy, I am not your brain, Todd or Kim. I was just on the Zoom call because I had it, but boy, it's just a lot of stuff. So I respect you wholeheartedly. Different information that I didn't know about. But it was really good to hear, and they did say we did have a lot of money coming in, but as Todd did indicate, a lot of it's one time, which was very interesting to hear. I attended the open house for Aim High and was overjoyed to see a lot of returning attendees that became teachers. And Paula Bosler did say that this whole summer with Aim High has been sort of a recovery summer for her. It was just really energized, great kids, and it's been 10 years at Tahoe Truckee, and the people that were from Aim High that were there said that this is just one of the most awesome campuses and that we've done a great job with it. They had a lot of good thoughts in terms of, how to keep that happy conversation in the forefront as opposed to your reactive anger, which was kind of cool. So we talked about how to keep that thought process through all of our schools, which was kind of cool. It was a good vein to follow. I've been very busy mountain biking with the North Tahoe Middle School children. I find that I do better in the field than I do in the classroom with those small children. But it's been great, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Met a lot of kids that I didn't know, which was kind of cool. And we've explored a lot of just the great terrain that we have here, so it's been really fun. I did go to the Tuesday morning breakfast club at Grand Labac, or just in North Tahoe. Really cool discussion on the water, the amount of in Lake Tahoe and the lack thereof. And I always thought there was 63 streams, but now they said there's only 62. They did talk, Amy Berry was there about the Tahoe Fund, and then we did talk a little bit more about the housing, just the situation that's happening. And again, one of the things that I think is important too, that we are part, and I think, Kim, you were the one that spoke highly of it in the beginning, that we are definitely part of the housing coalitions, and we're part of the housing solution if we can possibly be there. And I think it was mentioned briefly, but also I just want, I think it's important that we get recognition for the fact that we are busting butt trying to get people to live here. And then I did talk to Betsy Pillsbury at North Tahoe Middle School the other day, and then I actually ran into Jenny DeWalt at Kings Beach today. So I'm kind of making some rounds. Recently retired. I can do that. I'm feeling like Galen. And Kim. Okay, I'm done.
Chris?
I don't have anything to report, just enjoying summer with my family.
Good for you. Me too. I did want to note that we were all invited to the Adventure Risk Challenge poetry reading tonight, and I did reply to Sarah saying, sorry, we're here instead of there. So that would have been a great thing to be able to do. I have, like Dee Dee, been paying attention to the budget, or I guess like Todd too, and noted the losses that both the teachers' retirement system and the CalPERS took this year, not surprising. And how many times have I said that in these meetings, it's super impactful for all of us personally, because I'm a CalPERS retiree too, personally and professionally, because it affects the school district budget, it affects most local agency budgets, and it's just something I feel really compelled to pay attention to, and hope that, I know that the School Board Association is paying attention to it, and hopefully some of the other organizations that have at least some voice related to that. And I think that's all. I've been super excited for our convocation on August 24th.
I have 3 items. First, yay, electric buses, battery powered. I'm really buzzed about that. I'd like to know a lot more about them, and I will get it, I'm sure. Second thing is, I finished the ethics course up front, got it off my plate. I don't have to worry about it anymore. Third thing, I've mostly been staying home with a mask on, trying to not get COVID. But I do go to the post office, and on my way in through the door, a lady was coming out, and she kind of held the door, and I went in, and then I heard her say, Galen. And I turned around, and she introduced herself. It was a teacher. And she went into a very thankful mode of everything we've had to be dealing with and how much we've done, and personalized it for me, of course. And I just would like to say how important that is and how good it made me feel. Thank you.
Thank you, Galen. All right, so we'll adjourn to our next regularly scheduled meeting, which I believe is August 17th. Thank you.